Sleep is the greatest vulnerability in human existence. Think about what you are actually doing for 6 to 8 hours every single day. You lay down, close your eyes, shut off your conscious brain, and enter a biological coma. In a civilized world, you lock a piece of metal in your door and trust the social contract to keep you alive until morning. But what happens when that contract is burned? When the grid fails and hunger sets in, the night no longer belongs to you. It belongs to the desperate, the organized, and the predatory. They hunt at night for the exact same reason wolves do, because their prey is blind, disoriented, and unconscious. Most survivalists will tell you the solution is simple. Take turns keeping watch. They tell you to pair up, do 4 shifts, and everything will be fine. That is a fantasy written by people who have never stayed awake for 72 hours under extreme stress. By day 5 of rotating shifts, sleep deprivation destroys your cognitive function. You start seeing shadows move, your reaction time drops to that of a drunk driver. Paranoia sets in, and eventually, the guy on watch simply falls asleep with his rifle in his lap. You cannot outmuscle the night, you have to outsmart it. Here is the clinical, tactical breakdown of how to sleep when everyone else outside your walls is hunting. Phase 1. The circadian shift. The first and most vital step to surviving the night is accepting that you can no longer sleep during it. You are playing a game of statistical probability. You must sleep when the threat matrix is at its absolute lowest. Human biology dictates that the most dangerous time of the night is between midnight and 3 a.m. This is when the psychological deterrent of being caught is lowest, the darkness is absolute, and predators feel the most confident. If you are sleeping during this window, you are prey. Instead, you must execute a circadian shift. You become nocturnal. You stay awake, alert, and entirely silent in the dark. You listen, you observe, you let your eyes adjust to the absence of light. When do you sleep? You sleep between 5 a.m. and 11 a.m. Why? Because 5 a.m. is the psychological breaking point for the human mind. The temperature drops to its lowest point just before dawn. The people who were out scavenging or hunting all night are exhausted, freezing, and eager to get back to their own shelters before the daylight exposes them. The morning hours are the safest hours. The sun provides natural surveillance, shadows disappear, and the psychological drive to commit violence drops drastically in the cold light of day. You shift your sleep schedule to the morning, and suddenly you are awake when the wolves are out, and you are sleeping when they are hiding. Phase 2. Thermal and light quarantine. Let's assume you are forced to sleep during the dark, or you are resting in a building that isn't fully secure. Your next priority is absolute invisibility. Most people think pulling the curtains closed is enough. It isn't. In a blackout city, a single candle can be seen from over a mile away. A flashlight beam sweeping across a room acts like a lighthouse for anyone looking for supplies. If you must use light, or if you are trying to preserve body heat in the winter, you must build a microfortress inside your room. You do not try to black out an entire living room. It is too large, with too many gaps for light to bleed through. Instead, you build a tent inside the safest room. You string up heavy, dark blankets over a table or in a closet. You sleep inside that structure. This does two things. First, it traps your body heat in a tiny, confined space, preventing you from freezing to death in a grid-down winter without needing to start a highly visible fire. Second, it provides a 100% light-proof quarantine. If you need to check a map, load a magazine, or look at your gear with a red lens flashlight, you do it entirely under the blankets. From the outside, the house looks pitch black, dead, and abandoned. Phase 3. The early warning bubble. You have shifted your hours, you are thermally invisible. But you still have to close your eyes eventually. How do you wake up before your door is kicked in? You do not rely on high-tech perimeter alarms. Batteries die, lasers fail, and complex electronics break when you drop them. You rely on mechanical, physical sound traps. You need to build concentric rings of early warning around your sleeping area. Ring 1 is the exterior approach, broken glass scattered in the tall grass beneath the windows. It is invisible in the dark, but it crunches loudly under heavy boots. Ring 2 is the breach point, stacking empty glass bottles on the interior windowsill or the door handle. If the door is nudged even an inch, the glass shatters on the floor. Ring 3 is the hallway. Fishing line tied ankle high across the corridor, connected to a suspended heavy metal object like a wrench or a soup can. When you are deeply asleep, your brain filters out ambient, rhythmic noises. But the sudden, sharp sound of shattering glass or dropping metal triggers an immediate spike of adrenaline. It acts as an evolutionary alarm clock. If you set your traps correctly, the intruder thinks they just made a fatal mistake, and you wake up with your weapon in your hand, fully aware of exactly which hallway they are in. Phase 4. The coffin setup and the ghost position. Even with alarms, you never sleep in an exposed position. We talked in a previous video about the fatal flaw of sleeping in a bed. Now, we take it a step further. If you are sleeping in an urban environment, you are vulnerable to stray bullets, shrapnel, and blunt force. You need to sleep in what tactical experts call a coffin setup. You find the most reinforced micro space in the room. You slide under a solid oak dining table and push heavy bookcases or dressers around the exposed sides. You sleep in an empty cast iron bathtub, which is effectively a bulletproof bunker against small caliber rounds. You sleep under the lowest flight of a concrete stairwell. You trade comfort for geometry. You surround your sleeping body with dense, heavy mass. And finally, you employ the ghost position. You never sleep in the same exact spot 2 days in a row, even inside your own safe house. Human beings are creatures of habit. If someone has been watching your house, they will map out your routines. They will figure out which room you favor by rotating your sleeping position randomly every single day. You break the pattern. If they breach the house expecting you in the back bedroom, you are already behind them in the kitchen pantry. Survival is not about who shoots the fastest. It is about who manages their vulnerabilities the best. Sleep is a vulnerability you cannot avoid, but you can control it. Shift your hours to the morning when the world is tired. Mask your heat and your light. Build mechanical alarms that do the listening for you, and sleep surrounded by physical mass. The night is terrifying because it strips away our primary sense, our vision. But if you stop trying to fight the dark and instead learn to hide within it, the night stops being your enemy. It becomes your camouflage. Let them hunt in the dark. They will only find an empty bed, a floor covered in glass, and a ghost who is already awake. Stay sharp. Stay hidden.